Ah, passive income. It's the dream, right? Money that just shows up in your account, whether you're working, sleeping, or on vacation. It's this idea of finally breaking that chain that ties your time directly to your money. But how do you actually go from just dreaming about it to making it a reality? Well, let's open up the playbook and find out.
And that dream, it's a powerful one. It's not just about getting rich overnight. As the experts at Bankrate put it so well, it's really about creating extra cash flow for security. It's the kind of thing that helps you handle unexpected emergencies, build a real retirement fund, or maybe just give you the freedom to breathe a little easier.
Okay, so the dream is one thing, but what does it really take to pull it off? Is it as simple as money for nothing? That is the big question we're going to tackle right here in this explainer. All right, let's dive right in. Section 1, the passive income dream.
So first things first, let's get on the same page. What does passive even mean? Well, the IRS, not exactly known for their thrilling prose, defines it as money you earn from something you don't actively run day to day. So think about things like stock dividends or maybe royalties from a book you wrote a few years back. The key thing to understand is this is not a side hustle where you're just trading more hours for more dollars. It's about owning an asset that does the work for you.
And that brings us to the biggest myth of them all. So many people think passive income is about getting something for nothing. But as financial coach Todd Tresidder nails it, the reality is it absolutely involves work. The critical difference is when you do the work. It's all about that heavy lifting you do up front to build something that's going to pay you back again and again down the road. Which brings us to our next section and the core choice everyone has to make: effort, money, or both.
You've heard the old saying a million times, right? It takes money to make money. We saw that phrase pop up all over a Reddit discussion on this very topic. And while that's true, it's really only half the story. Because if you don't have a big pile of cash to start with, you can invest something just as valuable: your time, your skills, and your pure hustle. So this really gives you a fork in the road with two fundamental paths to choose from. Path number 1 is what we'll call the effort-first path. This is for the builders, the makers, the people with a skill they can turn into an automated asset. Then there's path number 2, the capital-first path. This one's for those who already have some money saved up and want to put that money to work. Let's dig into each one. Okay, let's start with Section 3, Path 1, the creator. The game plan for a creator is actually a surprisingly simple 3-step model. First, you create something, an asset. This could be anything from an ebook or an online course to even a design for a t-shirt. Second, you build an automated system to handle all the sales and delivery using amazing platforms like Shopify. And third, you market your creation. Once that system's up and running, it can pretty much operate on its own with very little effort from you. And what's incredible is just how accessible this stuff has become. Let's just look at 2 super popular models from Shopify. With dropshipping, you're basically a professional curator. You pick cool products, and someone else handles all the inventory and shipping. With print on demand, you're the artist. You upload a design, and a product only gets made and shipped after someone buys it. The magic here is that in both cases, the startup costs are super low, and the potential for automation is huge. You literally never have to touch a box or a shipping label. All right, so that's the creator path. Now let's completely flip the script and look at Section 4, Path 2, the investor. If you've got capital, your journey looks totally different. Here, your money is doing all the heavy lifting. But let's start with a big, flashing reality check. On Reddit, a high school senior asked how they could make $1,000 a month in passive income. So the community did the math. To generate that kind of cash from a pretty safe 5% high-yield savings account, you would need $240,000. So let that sink in. Generating really meaningful income from her capital alone, well, it takes a lot of capital to start. Of course, a savings account is just the beginning. As sources like Bankrate and Shopify highlight, you have a whole menu of options. You can buy little pieces of big companies through dividend stocks. You can own a slice of massive real estate projects with REITs. You can even become the lender yourself with bonds or through peer-to-peer platforms. But here's a practical problem you'll run into really fast. Most dividend stocks and bonds, they only pay you quarterly or maybe even just twice a year.
And that's great, but it's not the steady, reliable monthly cash flow you need to, pay your monthly bills. So what's the fix? And this is where the strategy gets really smart. As the Motley Fool points out, there's a solution, a special kind of fund called a monthly dividend ETF. Funds like the one from BetaShares are basically designed to be dividend harvesters. They strategically rotate through different stocks, they collect all the various payouts, and then they deliver it to you as one consistent monthly payment. It's such a clever way to solve the problem. All right, on to our final section, and this one might be the most fascinating. Path 3, the owner. So we've talked about the creator who invests time and the investor who invests money. But what happens when you combine the two? Let me tell you about a guy named Hunter Lawler, who is featured on the Bigger Pockets podcast. His story is just incredible because he is the perfect example of this hybrid path. He started with a pure, raw hustle, and then he used the cash from that hustle to start buying assets, eventually building a whole real estate empire.
I mean, just look at this journey. The guy starts a crawfish business in Louisiana. He uses the cash from that to buy his very first rental property, a double-wide mobile home. Then, boom, he gets burned by a bad tenant, loses money, and is forced to become a master at screening people. Then, he makes this wild pivot and starts buying properties at high-risk sheriff sales. From there, he just snowballs that initial effort into this massive portfolio. It's an absolute masterclass in blending hustle and capital. And you can just feel the raw intensity of his journey in this quote about his first auction. He said, "It's like this perfect storm of nervousness and excitement. At 10 o'clock on the dot, bullets are flying, so you better be locked in." Yeah, bullets are flying does not sound passive, does it? That's the definition of high stakes, upfront work to secure an asset that's going to pay off for years. So, after breaking all this down, we're left with 3 really distinct paths. You've got the creator, who invests their time, the investor, who invests their capital, and the owner, who finds a way to blend both. And that leads us to the final and most important question of all. Which of these paths resonates with you? What's your first move? Because here's the secret. This isn't about making some giant, scary leap. It's about taking one small, deliberate first step. If you're a creator, maybe that's just spending 1 hour making your first digital design. If you're an investor, maybe it's just putting $50 into a monthly dividend ETF. If you're an owner, maybe it's spending your first hour researching your local market. The whole journey to passive income isn't about some far-off destination. It's just about getting started. So the only real question left is, what's your first move?